cool. And like in terms of like being with everybody and shooting this thing, it was honestly one of the best set experiences I've ever had, hands down. Like um everyone was having a blast, and I really think intentionally Jason wanted to create the idea of the ensemble. He really wanted everybody to get to know each other and be friendly and have good chemistry and like make something that they believe in.
Hello, everyone. So, you want to start a podcast but have no idea where to start? Well, Crazy Ant Media is here to help you. We want to assist you finding your VFE. What's VFE, you ask? Well, that is your voice, your format, and your equipment. These are the three biggest essentials you need to start your podcast. All those hours watching non-stop YouTube videos or all those random website links, those are done. Just hop on a Zoom call with us and we'll talk about everything you need to know to create your own podcast and find your voice. Plus, we will send you home with a 12-page packet over everything we just discussed. It's very in-depth. It is definitely a must-need while trying to start your first podcast. Contact us at info@crazyantmedia.com today so that you can start finding your podcast voice for tomorrow. What's up, guys? Oh my goodness, welcome back to Inside the Crazy Ant Farm. Oh, you guys know myself, J. Logan Austin, aka J-Lo Fantastic, and then of course my co-host, Dustin Bergman, aka The Mouth.
What's up?
Man, oh man, we're super excited to dive into all the latest and greatest industry news that has been happening in Hollywood and the world this past week, but we just want to set a reminder. Give thanks next week, okay? We'll be giving thanks with our family, but we want to thank you now for listening to the podcast, subscribing, or supporting us the way you do. We appreciate that. Any way you support us definitely helps out. But next week, we will not have a show. We will be on Thanksgiving break. So be sure to keep that in mind when you tune in on Saturday, or at least try to tune in on Saturday and not see us here. But we'll be back the following week, man. We're super excited about today's episode, though, because there's a lot going down in Hollywood. Glicked, a.k.a. freaking Gladiator versus Wicked. They're trying to reinvent the Barbenheimer magic that we had last summer. Is it going to work? We'll see. We're going to talk about our theories and everything that is going down. Man, oh man, there's so much more happening in Hollywood. But before we jump into this thing, be sure to leave a rating on this podcast, comment below, and tell us what you actually think about this show. Because if you didn't know, leaving a rating on the podcast actually helps more people who enjoy entertainment news, but especially those who are trying to break into the entertainment industry, find us, talk about us, get shared, all the good things, man. Word of mouth is still a big thing, even if it's over a keyboard. So be sure to do that. Man, oh man, it's going to be a great freaking episode, but we also have to talk about our merchandise right here, right now at the Crazy Ant Media shop. It's 15% off everything. Like I said, www.crazyantmedia.com, where we have a little bit of something for a little bit of everyone. Christmas is just around the corner, so be sure to take advantage of everything that we have over there on our website. But man, oh man, we want to talk about this one first because it is a very interesting concept, especially to try to recreate. It's what if it was just lightning in the bottle? Is it something that can be manufactured again? Well, Glicked, aka the Barbenheimer phenomenon, it was likely impossible to recreate it. But this weekend, the two movies are set to try it out, creating what is called Glicked, Universal's Wicked versus Paramount's Gladiator II. Both had strong starts with their Thursday night previews, and the two films could help bring in a record-breaking Thanksgiving at the box office this upcoming weekend. So we're super excited about it because both films honestly look phenomenal. Both films honestly have a long runtime, so be prepared for that. But you have nowhere to go. So on your Thanksgiving weekend, be sure to check out both of these, maybe as a double feature. But in my opinion, I don't know if they're going to be able to recreate the magic that was Barbenheimer because we had just started hearing about this maybe a couple days ago. But I mean, Barbenheimer was happening for like months before both of those films came out. So the marketing is just not the same, especially over social media. And you have to get your fans involved, which I don't feel like the fans for both of these films are as involved as what Barbenheimer was for the box office last summer.
Agreed. And I think that Wicked is going to win this battle.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that the fan base is a bit larger than for Gladiator 2. The audience is drastically different. Gladiator 2, I don't think, can pull in nearly the genre of audience that Wicked will. Wicked will bring in all different ages and all different types of people. And so I think it's got the upper hand. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Warner Brothers, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it was Warner Brothers and not Universal that started the Barbenheimer and started it rolling. Somebody in Warner Brothers came up with the name and started that rolling, and then Universal quickly caught on and was like, yeah, we're fine with that, let's go. But it had a long stretch to build up to, and like you said, somebody just like, and in fact, Glicked wasn't even the first one. They had some other ones that were not as nearly creative. So they finally were like, okay, which one works the best? This one does. Let's just throw it out there and see if it sticks. I'm with you though. It was too late. You should have. If this was going to be your thing, I mean, we've been reporting on this for like 3 weeks now about the scope of what they think could be brought in at the box office. You should have started at least a month ago with this Glicked if you were going to go with it, right? And build up to it since you knew it could potentially be huge. But like you said, both nights had huge Thursday night previews, and I think it's going to do well. The problem, and why I think it might not equal, it might set a Thanksgiving record. I feel pretty confident it is going to do that, but I'm not sure it will match because of what you said. Now, Oppenheimer had a pretty long runtime. It was like 2.5 hours, or just under 2.5 hours, but Barbie was not. This one, they both are. And you got to buckle in for Wicked, y'all, because this thing's over 3.5 hours long. And then Gladiator 2 is like, what, a little over 2 hours long, if I'm not mistaken. So the amount of showings that each one of these can get is going to be limited, as opposed to where, Barbenheimer, Barbie could be seen multiple times, so I think that's where they're going to run in.
Oppenheimer was 3 hours long, and yeah, I mean 3.5 for Wicked. That's absolutely crazy. But yeah, like you talked about the Thursday night previews, I did see it was like 27 point something million dollars for Wicked at the Thursday night previews. That's absolutely insane. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But again, like very niche audiences, which those two films were as well. But I talk about the younger audience a lot, and I don't necessarily know if the younger audiences are going to be as big for Wicked as they were for Barbie. That's my opinion. I do think it's still going to be very big, but I don't think it's going to be as big as the audience was for Barbie.
I would say no. I would agree with you and say no, but I think it will be, only in the sense of Ariana Grande. If you hadn't cast Ariana Grande, then I would agree with you. But she will bring, she's got a lot of younger people that were from her with Disney, and that will, not Disney, what was it, Nickelodeon, and bring that audience, and then her adult audience as well. If that wasn't the case, if it wasn't Ariana Grande, I would agree with you wholeheartedly, because not a lot of people, unless you're a Broadway fan, or a music fan, of a certain specific genre or whatever, you don't know Cynthia very well, right? So that's not going to bring a massive audience like Ariana Grande. So now we'll see. I think Barbie benefited also from the fact that there was a whole lot of guys that went to go see Margot Robbie too. So if I'm being honest, it wasn't just the young girls. The guys went to go see Margot. So I don't know. We're going to see, but I'm hoping for the best, because as we talk about all the time, we want the box office to succeed. We want this thing to stay alive and above ground. So good luck, Glicked. Let's bring it. Let's see it.
Right. It looked like Gladiator came in at 2 hours and 28 minutes, and Wicked Part 1 is coming in at 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, which is insane. insane. So, yeah, I mean, you're talking 6 hours practically to sit and watch both of them if you're going back to back for the weekend. Or even if you split it, that's a lot of movie time over 2 days if you got to be committed. So, well, we'll see.
Exactly. Well, Dogma is getting a second film. Now, does anyone remember Dogma, especially all the younger audiences out there? This was a very, very interesting film about the Catholic religion put on by one of my favorites, Kevin Smith. An abortion clinic worker with a special heritage is called upon to save the existence of humanity from being negated by two renegade angels trying to exploit a loophole and re-enter heaven. So that was what it was about. And that thing was star cast, man. I mean, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Linda Ferrento, George Carlin was in that thing. Chris Rock was in that thing. I mean, a lot of freaking people, man. But this one is very interesting because it seems like I love Kevin Smith and I love what he's been able to do with his career in recent years. I would say the last decade, but he has definitely been going back to his roots when it comes to his filmmaking. I mean, you saw they just put out Clerks 3. I believe that is available on Peacock right now. And then, I mean, we've heard about, different iterations of Mallrats. We've heard about different iterations of different films that he has done in the past. But Dogma has always been one of the most, I don't want to say critically acclaimed, but one of the most conversation starters, I guess you could say, of his films. Because it is very religious based and it does have that dark humor. And Alan Rickman was in it. That was pretty badass. But yeah, I think this is very exciting. I got to go back and rewatch that because I have not seen that in so many years. But it would be interesting.
Yeah, and that one was controversial also because a lot of people, including the church, came out at it saying it was blasphemous. It was a slap in the face to Jesus. It caused a lot of stir up. And the biggest stir up is he put it out there that God was a woman. Alanis Morissette. So that didn't go over so well with a lot of people either. This is interesting, though. This might be one of those situations where the trades jumped the gun a little bit. Because Kevin Smith came out and said all he actually said was that he was writing a script for Dogma 2. That's it. That's all he said. And he said that doesn't mean it would ever get made. And by no means, because they were also leaking that it was potential that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon would be returning. He said he hasn't even picked up the phone. Hasn't even called it. And as far as he knows, they know nothing about it. So this is one of those ones where, and this is odd too, because it was Hollywood Reporter and Variety and Deadline. All of the major ones jumped on it as if it was a good go deal. And that almost never happens. The trades are usually really good at not jumping on a story unless they know it's accurate. And the fact that Kevin Smith so quickly came out to correct it says to me, will we see this one? I don't know. I'm with you, though. I think maybe yes, because he has been going back to the old IP, and he has been, but the fact that he's just now writing the script, I mean, that could, who knows when we would see Dogma 2?
Yeah.
And do we want to see Affleck and Damon back? I mean, maybe we want to see new angels. Maybe we want to see a new, and we're not going to get Buddy Jesus, right? So that's not going to, I mean, God bless, George Carlin, gone. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what a Dogma 2 would look like. But I'm with you. I loved the first one. And if a second one's coming, in Kevin Smith we trust, and I think it would be great, but just take that with what you will, guys. I mean, you've got what the trade said, and you got what Kevin Smith said, so you process whatever you're taking from that. I don't know.
Well, and we do know it was a slow week for industry news, so we understand that. We understand the trades. Just
the trades are like, we need something. We need something.
That's so funny.
And then,
well, it looks like you got some stuff happening at Disney, right?
Absolutely. And this is a huge one, guys. Hulu and Fox Entertainment announced this week a multi-year content deal whereby the Walt Disney-controlled streaming platform will retain all of the streaming rights for Fox's extensive programming slate. The agreement includes an expansion of their platform marketing arrangement, reportedly valued at over $1.5 billion over 4 years. Now, what does this mean? This means that Simpsons, this means that Family Guy, this means that any of your favorite Fox shows will continue to air on Hulu next day. You don't have to go trying to find them all over different streamers with whatever production company owns them, blah, 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 blah. They will be on Hulu next day. Look, Accused, that's the new big one from Fox. This makes sense to me because they've had a relationship now for a series of years, and it's been hugely successful for both. So I think this is just a smart move all the way around. $1.5 billion, so that's spending some money on this thing over 4 years. So, but yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. This is just another sign that, Iger is continuing to fix the ship or maintain the ship where it wasn't broken and just moving forward and keeping this thing rocking and rolling, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're trying to do the best they can as the juggernaut that they are, and I think they are consistently ahead of the pack. I other than NBC Universal, nobody is somewhat close to them as a overall entertainment company. And I mean, NBC Universal is not even really close, but just as far as where they're all at is layering, I guess.
Exactly.
NBC Universal is second, but not by a long shot, but not by a close shot. That is for sure. But we are heading over to Warner Brothers Discovery, and everybody has been talking about Superman. When are we going to see a Superman trailer? Well, the highly anticipated first trailer for James Gunn's blockbuster Superman film will debut in just a few weeks, they say, in mid-December. It's believed to be attached to Mufasa Lion King when that one starts to come out. I'm surely hoping so, man, because James Gunn was out a lot this week talking about, his ideas about Batman and wanting to be slow with it. And I feel like recently in the last 2 or 3 weeks, not a lot has been said about Superman. I know they're in the post-production stage trying to figure it all out and get some marketing schemes going, things like that. But I think, with a film like this and so many failed attempts that is the DC universe, we have to make sure that we keep having stuff to get fans excited, right? That's the biggest thing. So I think that's what we're trying to do here over at DC. So I'm very pumped. I'm very curious to see what this first trailer looks like because it is highly anticipated.
Oh, without doubt. I have a theory behind why we haven't heard much the past couple weeks about it. I think it's out of respect for Superman and Lois, who are wrapping up. They've got 2 episodes left, and then that's the big finale, and it's off. And James Gunn has said in the past that he's a huge fan of the show and that he loves that version of Superman. And I think he's trying not to step on the toes of their big finale with promoting his own thing. That said, I will say, James, those people have set the bar ridiculously fucking high for you. Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulloch are the single best Superman and Lois. Bitsy, best Lois ever, in my opinion. Tyler, best Superman since Christopher Reeve. And I would say I'm right here of making him an equal to Christopher Reeve, which I never thought I would say. So the bar is high, James. Just saying. I also have a theory for the trailer. I think, guess what? Mufasa comes out December 20th. Okay? But I think we're going to see the trailer just a tad earlier. I think it will be attached, obviously, to Mufasa in theater. But I think it's going to drop just a few days earlier. And here's my prediction. December 15th would be the 46th anniversary of the release of Superman the movie. I think James is going to drop the trailer on December 15th in honor of the 46th anniversary of the original Superman movie. So that's my prediction. Look for the Superman trailer to drop on December 15th because he loves Superman. He makes no, I mean, he holds that original Superman, you know, as everybody else does, as the film. And so to honor it by releasing his trailer on the anniversary of it only makes sense to me. So we'll see, but I'm predicting December 15th.
We'll see, man. We'll see. Lock it in. Lock it in. Well, Luca Guadagnino and Daniel are circling Sergeant Rock, an adaptation of the comic book for DC Studios. Now, deals haven't been finalized yet, but the studio is bullish on the script. Justin Koritz is also in talks, who previously wrote Challengers for Luca. And Daniel Craig is the other person in talks to be circling this bad boy. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, man. I don't know much about this. What talk to us.
Sergeant Rock is like Sergeant Rock's like a badass. Think Nick Fury, but for DC. He's set in World War II, and he's a badass, you know, sergeant in the military, runs a commando unit. Pretty hardcore. He's like Nick Fury during the war. In DC, they've never taken in modern day. At least I don't think so. Not that I can ever recall. It's always a World War II era type thing. I love this, though. He's a little bit lesser known of a character, which we know James Gunn has said he wants to do the same thing he did in Marvel and bring these lesser known characters and make them hits for DC. And Daniel Craig would be fucking epic as Sergeant Rock. I mean, I can see this guy with the cigar chowing down, leading commandos in World War II. I mean, if that's true. And I'm really curious about, you know, Gwendingo. I don't know how Luca says his last name. I apologize, Luca. But seeing what he's done in the past with his couple of movies, the idea of doing like a war action flick from the guy who did Challengers, I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. Well, how do you do it? Like, you know. So yeah, I'm all in on this. I think if DC Studios is going to finally compete, I think they have to take risks, much like Marvel did early on. And so a move like this with a lesser character, or, you know, I think this is, or a Swamp Thing, or, you know, I think this is the way for them to go. I think this is a smart move, and I'm excited about it. Yeah, let's stick here with Warner Brothers temporarily, because we know this one was a big one that was causing a lot of heat and a lot of trouble, and now apparently we have a resolution and everything is fine. The NBA and Warner Brothers Discovery have agreed to an 11-year partnership that will keep NBA content on Warner Brothers Discovery and will promote the NBA, ending a months-long legal battle. You guys know, we've been talking about this for months. The media giant also gets a full package of game rights in some international territories. Now, you guys know, inside the NBA, that's their big thing, right? It's on Turner, you know, TNT. It's been there for a gazillion years. It's gone. They did not work out that deal. But guess what? It's not gone. Warner Brothers apparently agreed, and they have signed a deal with Disney and ESPN that will keep Inside the NBA on air on ESPN. So it's transferring homes, but it's not going anywhere. And I guess Charles and Shaq and the guys are all coming back. So this is good news, though, because I think that's been a long-standing relationship that worked. You know, TNT and TBS and like that was your go-to if you were watching NBA games for as long as I can remember. So the idea that Zaslav almost blew it, not surprised by it, but I'm glad they were able to fix it and that we're still going to see some basketball on Discovery and Warner Brothers channels, because that's where they belong, in my opinion.
Most definitely. And I was actually doing some more research on this specific story during before we jumped on here, and it's kind of crazy because Charles and Kenny, and you know, everybody else besides Shaq, they're actually in their contract, if something like this were to have happened, they can operate as free agents and renegotiate contracts.
Yeah,
which is very interesting. And Shaq doesn't have a contract because he has an overall deal with Warner Brothers.
Right.
So it's actually very interesting because you have the tiers of different companies, and it's like, who do you report to? They say that TNT is still going to be the producers. They're still going to be the ones that's first in line to be, conversated with, talked to about certain decisions and things like that. But just with so many different leadership roles on so many different channels, I think it's going to get really messy really quick, in my opinion, because what was special about their show that was on TNT was they had time. They were able to conversate and have a lot of different points of views about a lot of different subjects. But what ESPN and Disney and ABC do when it comes to sports, they limit their time very quick, or they limit their time very short. So it's going to be very interesting to see if that's going to be any sort of transition, or if they're still going to be able to have that time to make certain points of view and conversate about the game and things like that. So I'm very curious to see how it's all going to turn out. But yeah, I'm also very curious to see what those contract negotiations are going to be like, and what that's going to look like if they don't get what they want. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, man. It's going to be very freaking interesting.
I think.
But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to follow up on what you said. I think that in order for it to be successful, they're going to have to allow that show to have the freedom that they allow the Manning cast on Monday Night Football.
Agreed.
Just to have it be a free-for-all and have them talk and have a good time. Maybe you throw that bad boy on ESPN2 instead of ESPN and just let it have, because I'm with you. If you don't give it that freedom that it's had all these years on TNT, it likely won't be successful in the transition. So, yeah, I just wanted to say.
I mean, it would also make sense, too, because, I mean, Pat McAfee's show, like, it streams like the 100% of the time. Of course, there's commercial breaks when it does hit on ESPN, but if they give it that type of thing, where it's just free balling and be able to talk about what they want to, I think it would be successful. So yeah, it's going to be very freaking interesting. But we are heading over to Paramount, and what is going to happen with the Scream franchise, right? People are leaving, they're coming back, they're saying, activist things and getting kicked off and leaving for bigger projects. Well, we do have some new people attached to Scream 7. Isabel May is set to play the daughter of Neve Campbell's Sidney Prescott in season 7. Now, that should be very interesting because they're going to have to explain where she was. I don't remember if they did in Scream 6. But I don't know, man. Is this becoming one of those film franchises where you're like, okay, enough's enough?
I mean, in my opinion, yes. I think the only reason they're even moving forward with Scream 7 is because they were able to get Neve back. If Neve hadn't come back, I think that thing dies. And now we know too, Patrick Dempsey is in negotiations, and I'm assuming Patrick Dempsey's character is the daddy because they were together. I mean, otherwise, why even try so hard to get his character back? I know he was in Scream 6. They hinted at him a little bit, but I don't even see the purpose of bringing him back unless he is going to be baby daddy, and that's how they're going to bring it all in. Has she been living with him the whole time? I don't know. Or did she keep her from him the whole time? I don't know. I'm with you, though.
And Isabel May is the girl from 1883, so that's very cool. She's a great young actress, so that should be pretty good.
Oh, without doubt. Yeah, she's popping up everywhere lately. She's getting into a lot of stuff. I think she's going to be one of the new It girls for sure. If you can't get enough of Survivor, you're in luck because you're getting even more. Yeah, Survivor 47 this season, the finale expands to 4 hours, y'all. 4 hours. Now, don't panic. You don't have to sit for 4 straight hours. They're going to break it up over 2 weeks. But the finale will actually be 4 hours this time. So, I don't know what that means if the first week, that 2 hours is going to be recorded, and then the second week, that full 2 hours will be live, which would be a nice little shift from how they normally do it. But yeah, I just, man, they expanded the shows to 1.5 hours long. Now they're expanding the finale. It's a lot of Survivor. That's all I'm saying. It's a lot of Survivor. You got to be all in on this bad boy. I don't know if they're testing the waters to kind of see what they can get away with before the big season 50, because that's coming up quicker than you think. Because remember, they drop this thing twice a year, so season 48 will be coming real. So 50 is just right around the corner. I think they're trying to play around with like something to make 50 really special, and they're like, what works, what doesn't work, etc. You know?
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, players are trying different things, and I think my theories for season 50 is hopefully they'll bring some popular cast members back. They haven't done that in quite some time, so I think that would be very cool. And I mean, current season people too, they're like, no, I'm coming back. So I feel like they've even hinted to the cast members that they'll possibly bring people back if they're liked enough or as big as a player in the game. So it's going to be very interesting. And yeah, I think people are going to love it though. Cause I mean, Survivor has such a built-in fan base who's literally been watching since season 1. So I think it'll be fine. I think that's going to be freaking fantastic.
I mean, 24 years on the air. People clearly like that's rare nowadays, unless you're like a Law and Order. You know, to make 24 years is huge. So yeah, I mean, people are still loving this thing.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Well, apparently Sylvester Stallone has found some love for working in television because he is nearing a deal to return for at least 2 more seasons on Paramount Plus for his drama series Tulsa King. Our sources tell us, though, that the show has not officially been renewed yet for those seasons. I definitely think, though, that it will have a nice boost to see that, hey, Sly is down. He's down to come back. So, I mean, from what you've told me, and I've watched a couple of episodes of the first season, it is actually a really good show. It's funny, like, you know, the back and forth between him and his little henchmen and him trying to create his own empire, I think is a fun ride. And Sly in television is actually very appealing, to be honest. So I think they'll get the seasons. They'll get the season.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer. It's Taylor Sheridan. You don't want to piss him off because he has everything on your network, so you're not going to tell him no. And the ratings have been solid. It's been going up in the ratings. So this the only thing that was holding it up is that early on, Sylvester Stallone said that the rigors of television, it's not like a film where you come in, knock it out, and then you're done. These are 12-hour, 16-hour days for a series of months, and he was tired. And so he hinted early on that he didn't know if he could do more than a season. And then he agreed to do the second season, but it was still up in the air. But now I guess he's kind of found his groove with it, figured out how to manage it even at his age. And and plus he's executive producing now, and he's more involved in the storylines and everything. He does this great little thing on his Instagram where he talks about the episodes and what's coming up. And like, so he's really involved now, which is, I think, helping wanting him to come back. But
agreed.
I like this though. Like you said, it's a full-on gangster show. I mean, it is about the mob, and it gets violent and it gets vicious, but it's laced with just enough humor to make it, you know, worth watching. It's like, this isn't a hard. So if you're against hardcore, you know, violent gangster flicks, you can still watch this one because there's comedic moments that make it. You're going to get people blown away and bloody and nasty, but then you're going to laugh 5 minutes later.
Yeah, for real.
You know, and they have figured out how to successfully do that, which is why I think this thing is clicking with audiences. So I love it, man. I'm glad. I'm a huge fan of the show. I'm thrilled. And they definitely left it on a fucking cliffhanger. So if they weren't coming back for 3, I'd have been pissed. I'd have been like, well, no, we need at least one more because it's on a cliffhanger. I mean, come on.
Right. That's so freaking funny.
All right, jump over to Universal, and they've got other things other than Wicked. No, I promise, it's true. Like, their golden boy now, Christopher Nolan, and his upcoming film, which apparently just keeps growing. This is going to be another Oppenheimer, y'all. Oppenheimer had like damn near every A-lister in Hollywood star in it. Well, apparently this one's on its way to that, because now we have found out that Robert Pattison is the latest actor to join Christopher Nolan's guarded project at Universal Pictures. He, of course, joins, who we've already told you, the impressive ensemble cast of Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Lupita Nyong'o, Anne Hathaway, and Zendaya. I mean, guys, like who else we gonna start throwing? I mean, this is huge. This is gonna be another one that just has this massive A-list cast. I feel like there's only a handful of directors, maybe not even a handful, maybe one or two that can handle that many A-listers. Their personalities, their how they enter. I mean, obviously Zendaya and Tom Holland, they get along pretty good. But, you know, to manage those type personalities all in one film and make it equal. Because Oppenheimer did a brilliant job of giving everybody fair screen time. And so if you're going to have a guy do it with a cast like this, Nolan is the guy to do it. And I'm getting more and more excited about what this film is going to be. I still, fingers crossed, hoping it's a comedy. But I don't know. God, this cast is so good.
That's so funny. I know. Still holding strong to the comedy. I think what's impressive about Christopher Nolan and you know, our boy John Papsadera is they find their people. You know, they know who they like to work with. In every new film, they bring in different people who they probably heard good things about and also wanted to work with, so they bring them in. But when they do that, they in turn find people who they want to put in their other films. So I think that's very special. And I mean, once you get on a Christopher Nolan set, I feel like, you know, you'll probably be good because it's going to make a good amount of money and they'll bring you back for another project. So I think that's always a freaking positive thing.
And Papsadera is doing it on both sides. I feel like Taylor Sheridan is his Christopher Nolan on the TV side, because Papsadera casts almost everything for Taylor Sheridan also. And the new one, Landman, I mean, Papsadera brought in fucking Billy Bob Thornton, John Hamm, Demi Moore. Like, he's got a massive cast in that. He just knows how to bring these huge personalities together and make it work. And I mean, that's brilliant. Like, well done, John. Well done. That's all I'm saying. Dude kills it. He kills it.
He does, man. He really does. Well, somebody else who kills it, especially at playing his most beloved character, in my opinion, Gabriel Macht, who was the very charismatic attorney Harvey Spector in the original Suits, is set to appear in the spin-off of Suits LA in a recurring role across 3 episodes. And we've talked about it, and Dustin did a little bit digging on, you know, when that possibly would be. And I think they're doing it right, because it's not going to be at the very beginning. You know, they're going to let them gradually build their own story before they bring in an OG to completely steals a scene, especially for a much beloved show.
Totally agree. And I know a lot of people are out there like, well, they're just doing it because they want to capitalize and everything. But this actually makes sense in the story. If you guys haven't read the description of the show or have a background, Stephen Amell's character in this, and he's the lead in Suits LA, he's a former New York prosecutor that now runs this firm out in LA, this entertainment firm out in LA. But he's a former New York prosecutor. If you guys are Suits fans, you know that Harvey was a former New York prosecutor. So it makes sense along a storyline that they would have run across paths, or they would have worked on a case together at some point. They would definitely know each other. So it's not just Harvey popping in for no reason to try to capitalize on having Harvey pop in. This will make sense into the storyline about how he would know Harvey. So I'm excited about that. And guys, if you haven't read anything about this show, I can tell you, you need to watch this. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. The pilot episode, guys, I can't tell you anything, but I can tell you it's epic. And right out of the gate, you're going to be hooked on this show. Just from the pilot episode, you're going to be like, holy shit. And then you're going to wish it was streaming all the episodes at once, because you'd want to binge watch it, but it's not. It's going to be on NBC. But I am super excited about this, and like you said, I'm happy that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we, can we have Harvey without Donna?
That's the question.
I'm just saying, will Donna be with him or no, or what? But I do feel like if done properly, you can sprinkle original cast members into the storyline, but only if it makes sense. And I think Aaron Korsh, the guy behind the original Suits, he's behind this one and he's writing this one. He'll make it make sense. Everything will be fine. It'll be good. Super excited about this one, guys. NBC. And we have a premiere date. We told you about it on the last show. It's beginning of February. So this thing's right around the corner. So get ready. Get ready.
Get ready, man. Get ready. And that's what Netflix is doing right now in the courtroom, okay? Because remember us talking to you about last week how freaking unprepared they were for the Paul Tyson fight. Man, oh man. Well, a lot of people were pissed. And I can't necessarily say I blame those people because I was one of them. I was also pissed. But I don't think I would go as far as suing Netflix for its technical glitches and unwatchable fight. I don't know, man. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. I understand the sentiment because, they built it up with all this thing. People get very excited about it. It's on your streaming service. You're paying for this monthly subscription. But Netflix is Netflix. And if you're the person trying to sue Netflix, if you have a lot of money, maybe it'd be worth it. But they have also a lot of money. They also have lawyers. And they will keep you in court forever to where you go bone dry. So that's what I think the result of this is going to be.
I have a theory on this one too. They, because they released a number saying 108 million subscribers tuned in for this fight. My first question is how many of those 108 million subscribers weren't able to watch the whole fight because they kept getting booted off? I also have a theory of why I think this class action was filed. By the way, it was filed by a guy out in Florida, and he filed it as a class action so that other people can get involved in it if they want to get involved in it, and not just him. But here's my theory. I think him, and I don't know for sure because it hasn't been said yet, but I'm pretty sure he likely only signed up for Netflix to watch the fight. I'm assuming out of 108 million subscribers that tuned in to watch the fight, 70% or more were like that, only signed up for Netflix to watch the fight. And these are the people that I think would fall into this class action. If you're like me and you just pay for it regular anyway, no big deal. We're not out our $6 because we watch all kinds of different content and we're going to, no big deal. We were watching shit before the fight. We'll watch shit after the fight. No big. But if you specifically signed up to watch that fight and you put your money down and then weren't able to watch the fight, I think that's the people that are going to be in this lawsuit. Now, in the grand scheme of things, guys, in a class action lawsuit like this, what are you going to get? Your $6 back plus maybe a couple extra bucks each per all the people. You're talking like 70 million people that'll probably join this class action. You're all going to get like $8. Even it'll be a huge settlement. They'll pay out, millions of dollars, but millions of dollars will translate to like $8 for each person in the suit. Is that really worth it? I mean, it sucked. I'm sorry, but you could watch it the next day on Netflix with no streaming issues. So, I mean, it's not like it wasn't available. It's not like one of those things that you would never get to see it. You were able to see it just a couple hours later if you really wanted to. So,
exactly.
That's why I think this is it's one of those things where we've become a society that will just sue at will for anything. Like, just be pissed and move on.
That's it.
I was pissed. I moved on. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, and what attorney took this? That's what I want to know. What firm said, let's jump it. Let's do it. Like, I don't even know.
Goofy as shit, man. Goofy as shit. Well, it is time for our guest interview. This week, we have Corinne Britti on the show. Man, oh man, you did a phenomenal job with this interview. I mean, she starts off so shy, closed off a little bit, but then by the end of it, she blossoms into a beautiful flower. And she has some amazing stories, man. She got to actually communicate and build a relationship with the person she actually played in Saturday Night. And I thought that was a very cool part. And she got some Billy Crystal lore and like all that fun stuff. I mean, I love the conversation. It was really good.
Oh, yeah. When she started talking about the atmosphere on the set of Saturday Night and what it was really like and how it kind of translated to what the stories that they had heard about the actual night. And she kind of gave us some inside scoop about what was real and what was made up for the movie and all that which was really fun. But her path to even getting to where she is now is a really interesting story, guys. She started off wanting to do acting and everything and wasn't seeing much success. So she transitioned to stand-up comedy. And like so many stand-up comics who eventually see success and then move into acting. So she kind of came full circle. And what I really like, we talk a lot about mental health too, because her comedy show, she would have this thing where they would do comedy and then they would have therapists as guests afterwards. And the audience would stay and have basically a Q&A therapy session with therapists every week, which she talks about, which was really interesting. How often do you hear that? Let's put on a big comedy show and then do a therapy session afterwards. I mean, I thought that was really unique. This is a really good one, guys. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation.
Most definitely, most definitely. Well, here she is.
Corinne Britti, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm. How are you?
I am excited to be in the Crazy Ant Farm. Good.
Well, we are excited to have you. You were in one of our favorite movies of the year, hands down. We both loved it, and everybody we know loved it, so I can't wait to talk to you about that because,
Yay.
as an older guy, I've been around for most of Saturday Night Live, so I'm curious your thoughts on it, what it was like working on a project like that. So we're going to definitely dive deep into that. But what we kind of like to do is just to get started is kind of do a little bit of a background on you for anybody who might not be familiar with you. And so I'm always curious, especially when the resume is stacked, writer, actor, producer, director, comedian. I'm like, how did you get into it all to begin with? And did you know early on that's what you wanted to do, or how'd you get started?
Yeah, wow, that's it's a big question, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't one of those people who was like I always knew I wanted to be an actor. I was like really, I had no idea. I always liked it. I liked doing it in school. It never even occurred to me that it could possibly be like an actual job,
Right.
or like my way of life while I was in school. So I just like, I don't know. And I was also really shy as a kid. And so it just never occurred to me until, sorry, I have a cat.
Oh, you're
She's-
good. We're pet friendly. Don't worry.
She might chime in at some points over here. But yeah, I was never the kid who was like, I always knew I wanted to be an actor, and it wasn't until college that my mom actually kind of pushed me to, was like, oh, this university called New York University, which I mean I had heard of, but I didn't know anything about the program. I didn't go to like an artsy school. I didn't like that. I was kind of very sheltered in that way. I was not knowledgeable about like the art world at all. My mom pushed me to audition for the program. I got in, and it was the only one that I auditioned for. And I was like, I mean, this feels right to me. This feels
Yeah.
good. So I went with it, and now I'm still here. And I guess, I mean, how I ended up with all the other hyphens that I have is just they don't really tell you about how to navigate like the business as an actor. They
Yes.
tell you all the fun stuff, which is like when you have the job, but they don't really teach you like how to get the job, or at least not in the studio that I was in. And so after the first year, first summer out of college, I didn't immediately get my big break. I started taking like improv classes and doing stand up here and there, and I just as a way to like perform.
Yeah.
Just to like get the, the outlet, and I ended up really, really loving it, and kind of also pursuing that as a career a little bit, kind of, but mainly I guess like I failed as an actor, and that's how I became a comedian. And I feel like that's how lots of comedians get their start, is they fail doing something else, and they just kind of fall into it, and that's what happened to me. Yeah,
And
but
then isn't that interesting though, how you term it as failing as an actor, so becoming a comedian, but then seeing some success as a comedian rebounds to the acting, which is always right. Like that's interesting to me. It's like, so it wasn't really a failure. It was just a step to the side for a second,
it was
and
a
then
side
kind of come
step.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was like, I think it was, it's a performance art,
Oh,
I guess.
absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
it was just like, it was a way for me to just like get out there,
Oh,
and I got out there. What can I say?
No, yeah. Well, a couple of things there too that I want to ask you about, because a couple of things stuck out to me there. first, you said you were really shy when you were young. So on stage, I mean, doing comedy is one of the hardest things to ever conceive doing anyway, even for people who are not shy. So, and acting can be like, the audition process. It's changed a lot now because thanks to COVID, we're in the world of Zoom or self-tapes, and everything is done like we're doing right now, as opposed to the cattle calls walking into the room, right? But it's still kind of a process and a little nerve. So how did you deal with that being shy? Was there a moment where you kind of just came out of your comfort zone and said, I'm just going to do it? Or did you experience a little bit of stage fright at first?
I mean, I still kind of experience stage fright to a degree. Definitely not nearly as much as I used to, but like I feel like a lot of actors were this way. Like it's a lot of actors, I think, are shy socially, like as themselves, but it's like they can kind of find different aspects of themselves
Yeah.
as, as someone else. And I think that's what I liked about it is that I was bullied a lot as a kid, and I was like I just didn't want to be myself, for like 90 minutes. Like that would be great. Like if I could do a play and everyone has to be my friend because that's their lines, like that was like what was really appealing to me. And I had like a very rich inner life,
Yeah.
obviously. When I was alone at home in my room, I was like the funniest, most interesting person ever to myself. But at school, I couldn't be that, or in real life, I couldn't be that unless I was like on stage and there was, something for me to be doing.
Right.
And I definitely really loved it, and I did it a lot through school, but again, didn't see it as a job until I got into college for it. And yeah, so I don't know. I think like now that I've done stuff like improv and I'm in front of people all the time, I don't really get as much stage fright anymore. In fact, I get more stage fright if I have lines that I need to have memorized and like there's something that like I'm supposed to do. Whereas like if I'm just doing improv or
Yeah.
something and I come on stage, I'm like, I know about as much about what's about to happen as you do.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't really feel, I don't know, I don't really feel any nerves about doing improv.
I love
Anymore.
that because I think a
Yeah.
lot of people think improv is. And
It would be
rightfully
the
so.
exact
Maybe it
opposite.
is for some people, right? But I think a lot of people are terrified of improv. But I like the kind of idea of just going off the cuff, just reacting, right? As opposed to like you said, oh, I got to remember this, or I got to hit this,
Yeah.
or I got to do that. So I like that. And yeah, so that's I really do like that approach, and like because you do get to kind of discover yourself, if you will, because you can play like, ooh, what's it like to be a bad guy? What's it like to be this person or that person? And you're really,
Yeah.
especially if you're starting young, you can kind of find out who you really are by playing these characters. I love that you
Yeah, by
said that.
pretending to be other people.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and you find your own identity. And then the other thing that you brought up early was, and I agree wholeheartedly, is that they don't teach the business part of show business. And I think that's where a lot of people breaking in get in trouble. They because they don't have a clue, and then that makes them susceptible to people coming in and taking advantage. And so. Yeah, I think that, and it's one of the reasons why Logan and I do this podcast. It's for the people trying to break into the industry, and we want to try to inform people about, hey, this is kind of how it works, and if you're thinking about it, this is the gig, and you got to remember this, and you got to remember that. And especially acting, we had a guest on, and he was great. He likened it to, we don't like to use the word rejection, we say selection, but he likened it to, the auditioning is the job. When you get the gig, that's like the perk. But he said to not get defeated, he views it as, hey, I know that I am a Porsche, and I am a great Porsche. It's just that day they were looking for a Maserati. But one day they're going to look for a Porsche and I'm going to be that car. And so I like that approach. It's like, don't ever get down on yourself that you weren't good enough or you didn't get, you were rejected. It's just like you weren't the one they selected that day, and that's okay, right? How do you kind of combat with it? Because it really is an industry kind of built on selection or rejection. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, definitely that. It's very much, it's like, it's an industry where you can get rejected because you have the wrong color hair or you're the wrong, like, height. It's like, it's one of the only industries in the world where you can get rejected from a job because your hands are weird or something, like, you just like about how you look. Like, it is, and it's not discrimination because it's, you're trying to create an art piece.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, I guess I've just dealt with it so much that it's, I don't know, I've become like numb to it. I mean, of course there are those auditions that you get where you're like, I would be perfect for this role. I could play this tomorrow. Like, I know that, like, they would be stupid if they didn't hire me. And then it turns out, a couple weeks later, they are stupid. They didn't hire you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you definitely do get attached sometimes. And there's moments where you're like, dang, like, I really, like, that really sucks. But for the most part, I think, like, the majority of auditions that you get as an actor are ones where you're just like, oh, well,
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're a working actor like me, like, you get mostly commercial auditions. That's like, especially if you're like in the comedy, even like comedy adjacent, if you have the ability to like improv or something, the commercial world loves you. And so for those, I'm just like, sometimes I will audition for something and then like a week later, they'll be like, they loved you, you booked it, and I'm like, what even was, I don't even remember that.
Well, yeah, because there's some stretches where you have so many that, I can imagine that you don't recall what it was or stuff. And then there's the other side of it too. We have a buddy, Jason Warner Smith, and he talked about, he auditioned and he thought he nailed it, and he was like, oh my, this was the best thing I've ever done, and didn't get it. But turns out they loved him. They thought he nailed it too, just not for that. And they put him in the drawer, and they specifically waited. And every time he would come in and audition for them, he wouldn't get it. And then there was the one character that they were waiting for him for, and then he got it. And they told him, we wanted you from day one. We were just waiting for the right one for you. And then he landed The Walking Dead, and it just boom. So those stories are good too. And I feel like if you approach it that way, you just got to remember, maybe you did do great and you were the best. And they're just like, it's just not for this. But man, do we remember that person? And we're going to remember when we're going to cast this. So you just got to kind of stay positive with it all. And I think that's great. Which brings me to, I love too that you did, speaking of your stand-up comedy, the Almost Therapy. I thought this was like huge because we have another podcast too that we do called Everything's Okay, and it's mental health based because mental health is really important to us. And so I love the idea that you're doing this stand-up sketch and comedy and then Q&A with a therapist. I was like, wait, what? This is incredible because I feel like, especially in this industry, mental health, huge. So talk about that a little bit. Is it really important to you too? And where did this idea come from? Because I think this is a fantastic idea.
Thank you. Yeah, that really, it was born from like my friend and I, we both kind of got into comedy at the same time. And we were like, we need to get on shows because these open mics really suck. And the best way to get on shows is to have your own show that other comedians can get on, and like you can trade time to get on their shows.
Right.
Like,
no.
That's kind of how it works. And so we were like, well, we have to have a show. And it's actually, it's pretty easy to put one on in New York. There's tons of performance space. If you've got, you won't make any money, certainly, but if you've got the time, there's a lot of places where you can, there's a lot of bars who will be like, yeah, you can use our place for free, you just like, we make money on drinks, and then you don't make
and you don't, but hey.
but you get stage time.
Exactly.
And so that's what we did. We were like, we wanted to have, we wanted to do a stand-up show, but we really wanted something that set us apart. And both of us had had our own personal run-ins with mental health, as you can imagine. And we were like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we did like we had like a variety show, which is like it could be it's mostly stand up, but like, we had magicians, we had musicians, we had like burlesque drag, like we just had anyone on we thought was really cool. And at the end, the audience could submit anonymous questions that would be answered by a therapist, and they're like real question or a mental health professional in some
Right.
way, and they're like, and we were like, it's a comedy show, and a lot of people at comedy shows, like, they want to be the funniest person in the audience, and we're like, we really wanted to make a space where people felt comfortable like asking a real vulnerable interesting question. And 9 times out of 10, they really did, which is like part of what made me so proud about that project was like we really cultivated a space where people like really wanted to engage genuinely with this mental health professional, and like people I feel like learned something. I certainly learned a lot over the years of doing it, and yeah, I mean, it just became something that was really, really important to us. And like for, for certain stretches in our careers, it was like the best thing that was happening to us. It was
Yeah.
like the only thing that we had. And it was like, it really truly was like a labor of love. I say was because we're not currently putting it on right now. We had an issue with like one of our venues, it fell through, and we're on kind of an extended hiatus right now, but we're really hoping to put it back up. But yeah, we had a fair amount of success with that.
Yeah,
And
that's
it was
amazing.
cool.
First of all, thank you for doing that. I think it's so important to get it out there and provide those spaces for people to feel comfortable enough to talk. It's one of the things that we talk about all the time with that's art provides that, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't just normally sit down and say, let's talk about suicide or let's talk about anxiety. But if you're watching a movie or a TV show or a comedy show on stage, and it brings it up in a way that you're talking about that at first, but then it transitions to having those conversations. I think that's the best way to do it. If you can entertain and inform and help, like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole beauty of being an artist and being a creative, is to put that out in the world and, do your little part, I guess, to make the world a better place. Right. And I just love that you did that. What a brilliant idea. I just, thank you.
Thanks.
And fingers crossed.
Yeah,
I hope it does come back for you guys, because I think that's just
me too.
fantastic. Okay. My next question, because I think a lot of people transitioned into this thanks to COVID. Did the writing and the creating your own content kind of a thing come from that? And sometimes it comes from you're going stretches without getting any gigs, and you're being told you're not right for this or you're not right for that. Okay, well, I'm going to write something for myself and put myself out there. Talk about how you kind of added the hyphens a little bit, making okay, let me be a writer or a producer, or talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, you answered it. I mean, it's like I never really self-identify as a writer because I can't just like sit down and just like write something. Number one, I have to like actually have an idea in my head, like pretty much almost completely start to finish. Like I
Yeah,
have to have, something that it makes me interested in it. And it's also like mainly out of self-preservation as a performer. Like I write very selfishly in that I write like for really mainly for myself.
sure.
Um, and like and it's like I can write for other people, especially if I know them well, but I'm not, um I don't think I would consider myself like a writer, but I'm like a writer actor, which
Yeah.
I feel like honestly is a lot of people. A lot of very successful people just started writing stuff for themselves, and
Oh, without
then
doubt. Yeah.
people liked it. But yeah, mostly out of self-preservation.
I love that though, and I gotta tell you, you are not alone. Almost every writer I know tells me I'm not really a writer, and I'm like,
Yeah, I think
well, you kind of
pretty
are
cool.
when you have like 35 credits. You kind of are, but you know,
Yeah.
I love that though. I think that's a self-perfectionism type thing. It's you never feel good enough. It's only I'm only doing this or I'm only doing that. But I think you're probably doing really well because it takes skill and talent to be able to do what you do. So I love that. All right. We have to jump in because this was huge. This movie, when they first announced Saturday Night, I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be good, right? Because there were so many stories over the years of what was going on behind the scenes on Saturday Night. You know, the sometimes not so nice stuff and the heckness, like even getting. So the idea that they were going to tell this story of the hours leading up to the opening night, I just found extremely fascinating. So I got super excited about it. Are you a fan of Saturday Night, first of all? And is that why you were like, oh, I got to audition for this? Or how did the audition come about?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a fan of Saturday Night. I think anybody who's comedy adjacent, who does comedy, like, it's almost kind of a necessity of the job is like, it's so many like comedy institutions like the UCB, the People's Improv Theater, like, you know, like the BCC, they kind of teach almost like all of them offer classes of like, oh, you got the SNL like tape, like we'll coach you, you know, they offer like SNL class coaching and things like that. That's considered like part of the model. Okay. Definitely is like people come in and like that's the SNL model. You know, that's considered like the peak of, right, of the institution. But I mean, I wish I had the type of career where I can be like, I definitely want to audition for that and just like get the audition. But no, I just like any other thing, my representation, my manager sent me the audition. It was originally titled Wolverines. This was like early last year. It was just for a tape. Yep. And it was for the role of Valerie, which I ultimately ended up playing. And it was, yeah, I mean, it was very conventional. I sent in a tape and like, I don't know, a week or so later, they wanted me in for a callback. And it was an in-person callback in New York, which is like rare. A lot of times it's like, especially for something of this caliber, it's like multiple. Right. It's like it's like 2 Zoom callbacks and then like a maybe an in-person with the producer if you're lucky. Like, but no, this was like, come on in and audition. And at the casting office, and Jason was there, in the audition room. Oh. And yeah, it was crazy. Like they were also auditioning like literally like Anna Klumsky was like 2 people before me. Oh, like, wow. Like, you know, like pretty well-known people. In addition, they were just like, you know, anybody. Yeah. I'm sure he was just like in town and they wanted to do it. But yeah, I don't know. I did the sides. It was like one scene. I did the scene. I did it again. And then he was like, thanks so much. And I was like, okay, yeah, heard. Absolutely. You know, I very much thought, I was like, whatever. Like, they don't know. They don't want me. Like, they don't want, you know, this is a big, huge thing. This is like a historic project, you know, this is like a big caliber thing. Yeah. I left the room actually feeling very good about what I had done. I was like, look, because in the room, I was like, there's no way I'm getting this. And so I just kind of just went. I was very relaxed, weirdly. I was like, yeah, kind of chill. Because I was like, this is a cool opportunity that will never happen to me. So yeah, so I was very relaxed, very chill, and then I left the room, and weirdly, like, this doesn't happen all the time. It's very rare that this happens, where I left the room and I was like, actually, I feel pretty good about what I did. Yeah. I don't want to kill myself after that. Actually, that feels pretty good. I could do that again. And yeah, and then I didn't hear anything for months and months and months. Of course. Well, it was mainly because, and I fully thought I hadn't gotten the job because it was supposed to shoot last September, but then the
Right.
strike
Strikes
happened.
happen. Yeah.
And so they had to stop all pre-production and casting work. Like literally the whole thing came to a halt and September rolled through and I was like, well, maybe they shot it, probably not, who knows. And then that December, literally on my birthday, I got an email that wasn't a booking yet, but casting was like, "Are you available?" And I was like, "Yes."
That's a great birthday
Oh,
present. It's like, yes, yes.
yes, I'm available. I'll
Yeah.
quit my job. I'll dye my hair. I don't know, whatever you need me to do. And then yeah, like that February, I got the call that they booked me. I didn't have to come back in. I don't know.
Wow. Wow. I love hearing the process and because it's always different. It's always a great story.
Always.
Um,
Yeah.
so how did you approach it? Did you do a lot of research on Valerie or so how did you go into that approach on, okay, this is who I'm
Yeah.
playing? Did you have to Google her and go, who is that? Or did you
Yeah.
know, or yeah. Yeah. So,
I mean, for the audition, there was like a small, backstory on who Valerie is. Valerie Bromfield, wonderful comedian. I never met her before the filming. And then it wasn't until actually after it came out that she found my email and emailed me.
oh,
She is no longer in the industry. She's since retired. She like quit the industry in the early 2000s and went back and got her psychology degree and then taught at a university for many years, had her own private practice.
wow.
And then I think is, yeah, now retired. And we've been emailing back and forth,
How
which is
awesome is that, right?
so cool. It's
Yeah.
amazing. I think it's also interesting that we have like, I don't know, like a little bit of in common of like the psychology / comedy thing,
Yeah.
which I had no idea before I even during the audition, I didn't know that she had also like become a psychologist. Um, but yeah, in the 70s, she was well known in that, like in the comedy community. She was on like she helped write and she performed on like the Lily Tomlin specials. Which Lorne also produced. So she was like good friends with Lorne. She and Dan Aykroyd were comedy partners. They were a writer duo. They
Yep.
came up together, all through like Canada and like one of the founding members of the Groundlings, I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah, she was up there. Yeah, so she's like very important to that community. She and Lorraine Newman are still friends. They still call each other.
Amazing.
Uh, yeah, so it's very cool. She's a pillar of the community. It was like it's unbelievable that I even got to play her. I don't look anything like her. But for the audition, at the top of the scene, you hear like a little bit of her set that she ultimately does on the pilot episode of SNL, which I think is worth watching. It's worth watching the whole pilot just to see
Oh,
like
for sure.
absolutely how insane it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild. There's like not only there's not one but like two musical guests. Andy Kaufman does technically a musical set. They
Yep.
introduced him as a musical guest even though he wasn't. Um, the iconic Mighty Mouse thing that's
Yes.
from the
Yeah.
pilot episode. And then yeah, so there was like the Not Ready for Primetime Players, which was the main cast, and then he brought on Andy, Valerie, and Billy Crystal to be featured players to do like a set, in between sketches. And Valerie made it on the show for 2 minutes,
Yep.
two whole
Yep.
minutes, and she does a set of characters, and that was like part of the set was part of the audition, which was later cut from the movie. And then there was just truly like 7 lines, I think, in that whole scene. But yeah, that was but yeah, before the audition, I had not heard of her. And the main thing I worked on for the audition was just her set.
Hmm.
And then once I booked it, that's when I started kind of researching into who she really was. Um, and it's awesome. She's so cool. She's one of those like more niche players. Like she obviously never made it super big.
Right. Right.
But I also don't think that she was ever really interested in fame or, being like prolific or anything like that. I think she always really liked, doing the writing stuff and like the behind the camera stuff, although she was an incredible performer. Yeah, she's worth a Google.
Yeah,
If
no doubt, no doubt. I
if-
love everything about that. Like, first of all, there's usually only two reasons somebody would hunt you down and email you. It's either they hated what you did or loved what
yeah.
you did. So clearly, if you guys are still talking, she loved what you did. I mean, so
She did. She said like some of the nicest things like in her initial email. It was like so yeah, it like made me cry. I was like, "Oh
aw.
my," like I couldn't respond for a whole week. I was like, "Oh my God, I
Yeah,
can't
right.
believe
You had to
it."
process it. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
I was
oh,
like I was shocked that she I mean, obviously I figured that she would watch the movie, but I
right,
just the
right.
fact that she would like find me and like say such wonderful, wonderful things,
That's
like so
that's amazing.
that's
So
like the
did she
coolest thing that's ever
share?
happened to me.
Oh, I bet. I would be telling everybody. Did she
Yeah.
share a little bit about that whole back and forth dynamic with Billy? Because to me, I thought that was a really interesting driving point in the film because
Hmm.
like you said, the not ready for prime time. You know that's happening. But the
Yeah.
feature, you're like, oh my gosh, who are they gonna make it? Are they not? And the whole time,
Yeah.
I'm sure most people are thinking, well, no way Billy's not getting on. No way Billy's not getting on. So did she share a little bit of that with you? And is that because I've seen, and maybe we could talk about this a little bit too.
Yeah.
Some of the original cast members are saying, oh, that's pretty spot on. And a couple other ones are like, yeah, maybe this was like this and maybe it wasn't, kind of a thing. So did you get a little insight in that? Was it like, because that had to be
Well,
hardcore. Her and Billy were so friendly. And then all of a sudden she's like, you're on. See ya. Like, I mean,
well, so there's a lot in there that's like definitely true. I mean, a lot of it is, is fictionalized
sure,
drama.
sure.
And like obviously they wouldn't be rehearsing sketches for the first time like 40 minutes before it airs. Like they that would have already been done. Like
Yeah,
that's the point of the dress rehearsal anyway. Like all of that would have been done and they would be kind of getting ready.
yeah.
Like it was more to kind of add to the suspense and things like that. So I mean, she in her email, she was like, I don't really remember all that stuff, but that was crazy. And like all that stuff with Billy. And so, but Billy Crystal, he definitely remembers. And so, unfortunately, what happened between Billy and Valerie as portrayed in the movie was not actually very accurate to what really
Oh,
happened. I mean, in terms of the friendliness, I'm sure I'm sure everyone was like having a blast and
sure.
like being like, I can't believe we're all here. This is crazy. Especially like a major network doing taking a chance on like a variety show of like alternative comedy. At the
Without
time,
doubt.
not mainstream comedy. It
And
was all
pissing
like
off their biggest star on the network at that time
literally.
with Johnny
Yeah,
Carson,
truly.
right? That's a huge risk. Like, yeah.
Yes, literally. And so I'm sure the energy was like very similar to what it was portrayed in the movie, but in terms of like what happened between Valerie and Billy, it was very different. In real life, I mean, do you want to know the real story?
Sure.
What happened? So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie and also have not watched the pilot of SNL, Billy Crystal does not appear on the pilot episode of SNL, although he later joins the cast and then later comes back and hosts when, of course, he becomes like a household name.
Right.
But in the pilot, he never made it on. And the reason was, the real reason is like kind of more boring, which is why I feel like they dramatized it. So it was just like during the dress rehearsal, he was kind of complaining to his agents that he wasn't getting enough time. He's like, 5 minutes isn't enough time for my whole set. And so his agents complained to Lorne and was like, you're not featuring him enough. He's a star, blah, blah, blah. And then Lorne was like, you want more time? I'll give you all the time in the world. You're off the show. And so, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what really it was an agent's thing. It was,
Sure.
it was industry politics, unfortunately. Although I don't think there was like
Any animosity towards it. Yeah.
any
Yeah.
real animosity. There's a lot riding on this, and so it was just like you're either in or you're out. I don't know what to tell you. And that was pretty similar. It was like I have 2 minutes that I need filled, or I have a very limited amount of time.
Right.
It's either take what you can get or you leave.
Right.
And that's ultimately what ended up happening. But yeah, it wasn't really kind of between the two of them.
Right, right.
He wanted but all three of them on, obviously. He wanted to feature them all, but it
Just couldn't happen.
happen.
I love the real behind the scenes scoop. Now we know the story. I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So we know kind of like what the set for SNL was and what was going on that night and what was the set like on Saturday night? What was it like working on? I'm guessing
Oh my gosh.
probably your biggest production at this point, like as far as a film goes. Yeah. So
I don't know if anything, like, I don't know. We'll see what happens with my career, but I don't know. It certainly like has not been matched in my career so far, but like the scale of what we were seeing was unbelievable. So basically all the exteriors were shot in New York, like, at 30 Rock.
Sure.
But then the interiors, everything was done on a soundstage in Trilith.
Okay.
In Trilith Studios, where they shoot all like the Marvel DC stuff.
Yep.
In Georgia. And so yeah, it was like, and so they meticulously recreated Studio 8H within a soundstage. I mean, down to like the cigarette stains.
Yeah.
Or like
Wow.
down to like the yellowed wallpaper and like the 70 and the carpeting everywhere. I mean, it really is like they went all out on this thing. And the set, like as you see it in the movie, like you can follow people from the soundstage through the hallways, up the stairs, past the offices, into Lorne's office and all that stuff. That is real. Like that's not special effects.
Incredible.
It was 2 floors. It was an incredible set. It was so cool. And like in terms of like being with everybody and shooting this thing, it was honestly one of the best set experiences I've ever had, hands down. Like everyone was having a blast, and I really think intentionally Jason wanted to create the idea of the ensemble. He really wanted everybody to get to know each other and be friendly and have good chemistry and like make something that they believe in just as much as he did. And I think which was ultimately the energy that
Sure.
that he believes kind of went into SNL. And I think he did a masterful job of creating that vibe on set. And so like what you watch on screen like is portrayed as like a bunch of kids having the time of their life, and that's exactly what it was. It was just a bunch of people, a bunch of actors who like honestly I got along really well with everybody. Everyone got along, and it was like we were all having a time of our lives. It was awesome.
I love that because well done, and well done to Jason, because it does come across that way. The chemistry is there. You believe these people are a group of people who have been hanging out and having fun for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So I think it did translate really well on screen, and I'm glad to hear that. And I also like how Jason was very smart in who he chose, because the not ready for primetime players, most of them were not known people at that point, kind of thing. So I like the idea when he cast this film that who that is. I've seen that person, but I'm not quite sure who it is. Kind of, I thought it was brilliant to pick actors who like you've seen them, but you're not quite sure who they are, kind of a thing. And because it represents what that was, and so to do that instead of just lacing it with huge A-listers all over the place, right? I thought that was a brilliant move. Not that they're not A-listers. I'm just saying they're
absolutely. They would agree. I mean, he cast specifically, like there are definitely a few definitely recognizable faces in there, but they're kind of peppered throughout, and the majority of the people that you see on screen are are actors who are working actors who are in varying degrees of success in their career, which is exactly what they were. He cast like people who are in times in their career that were similar to the actors that they are portraying, which I think was really smart. And it also allows us, it also just like whenever you recognize a person on screen, you're always like, oh, it's like, oh, Nicole Kidman did a great job in that
Right,
movie. And
exactly.
you're not really seeing the person that they're portraying.
Yep.
Like, although I love Nicole Kidman, it's just she's so recognizable. It's like
Yeah.
impossible not to see that as Nicole Kidman. And so it's really cool to watch a movie where you don't recognize all the faces, and so you can really see them as like, yeah, that's Billy Crystal, or
Yep.
it could be, you know, how
Yep.
do I know there wasn't a time machine involved? Like, that's that person. Absolutely. Yeah, it was great.
So I got to tell you, I think you said you're not sure where it's gonna go, or if you'll. Yeah, I think you're going. I think you're gonna see things. I think just because you light up, you're very passionate about when you're talking about it, and you can tell the excitement and the enthusiasm, and you nailed it. I mean, you were brilliant. I always find, like, because you took the approach, I feel like, which many people do not, and I think that's what hinders them. There's no such thing as a small role. You're like, I got 7 lines, I'm gonna fucking kill it in these 7 lines,
Oh
right?
my God. I was like, I felt like I was the biggest star. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And so
I
that
knew
comes.
that I wasn't, obviously. Like, I was far from the star of the movie, but on set, I was like, I mean, you know, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm the star of this film.
Well,
I feel like,
and
you
it
know,
comes
this is
across
perfect.
that way. You lit up in the time that you were on the screen.
Oh, thank
So
you.
I think that you're probably going to springboard a little bit. I think you're going to do all right. And I just love. I got to tell you, just the whole conversation. You can tell there's little moments when you're talking about certain, you just light up, and I'm like, yeah, she's got the passion. You know, when she's got that little twinkle when she's talking about the comedy and the therapy. She's got that twinkle when she's talking about this Saturday night in the email, and like, yeah, I love that, because the most successful people, you got to be passionate about it, because it is a rough industry. If you don't have the passion, you're probably in trouble. So, well, I love that. I love everything. This has been such a great conversation. You're a gem. You're a real gem to talk to.
Shut up.
All right, so we do this kind of fun thing. This is new for this season. Yeah, we're like our 7th year in now, which I can't even believe.
Wow.
But we're trying to do this little new thing or whatever. So we got a series of little things that we call popcorn questions that I'm gonna hit you with, and I'm real curious now, because you've had such great stories. I'm like, Okay, so my first one is the funniest moment or most memorable moment that you've had on set. Specifically, probably, I'm sure there's one from Saturday night, but doesn't have to be. Can be anything.
God. This isn't from Saturday night, but I did have a chance. I was in a movie, a smaller movie, that Michael Ironside was also in.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in that movie, and at the time, it was, you know, not much bigger. It was a much lower budget. Those were the words I was looking for. Anyway, and so with that, like, there's a lot more. You interact with people a lot more. Usually, like, on a bigger set, like, you know, he's a higher profile person. Like, he would kind of be kept sequestered,
Right,
because
right.
it's a lower budget. Like, there was really only one place where there was like food and coffee.
Exactly. There's only one crafty table, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, literally. And so he was kind of touring around set. Like, the producer was like taking him around, introducing him to like the gaffers and the grips and things like that. And then they introduce him to me, and I say hello, and then I don't know, I don't even remember what he was saying, but he was like joking with some people like across the room, and I was like kind of ribbing like one of the people on the crew, and I was like, hey, you, and because that's who I can't keep my mouth shut as a person. And then Mike Ironside looks at me and he goes like, hey, I have socks older than you. And I go, well, tell your socks I'm coming for them. And then he goes, and then he just looks at me, and then he turns away, and he's mid-conversation.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I going to get fired.
That is fun. Okay, that's hilarious. First of all,
Yeah.
I love that you just shot back, because for anybody who might not know who Michael Ironside is, look him up. But he's kind of an intimidating guy. So the fact that you just kind of fire back at him, because he's really known as kind of playing these bad, tough guys most of the time, right? And so I love the fact that you just fire back at him. That's fantastic.
This was a few years ago, and I hadn't really, before I worked with him, I didn't really know much about his. My brother was like more familiar with who he was than I was.
Yeah.
But he, to me, was just like kind of an old grandpa. And so I was like, you're not better than me. I don't know. That's like generally how I deal with my imposter syndrome, is like the pendulum swings the other way. I'm like, hey, screw you guys. I'm better than you. What are you, famous? I don't care.
I love that. I love that. Okay. All right. So no, it's good. It's good. All right. I'm real curious about this one now. If you could live in a film or television show, which one would it be and why?
Oh my God. Is it annoying to say Saturday night?
No, I mean, why wouldn't you want to live there, right? Like,
I want to go back. Like, it was everyone at the premiere. Everyone was like, okay, yeah, so when's the sequel? Like, we all had so much fun with each other. And like, it felt like such a, truly, it was like, I don't know, like 6-7 weeks of the movie. Like, normally a movie of that caliber, it would be like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
But it was so short, and everyone had such a great time. And we were like, when do we come back? Let's make the next one. So yeah, I want to go back.
All right. Well, and you lit up when you were, oddly enough, you lit up when you were talking about the carpet and the walls. And I'm like, she's got a 70s vibe. She totally is digging the 70s.
Yeah,
I was like,
I love the 70s.
Yeah.
I love the 70s aesthetic. I love like a bell bottom. I love like a pointy giant collar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. We'll see if we can't make that happen. We got to get you in some 70s stuff.
Yeah.
This is like a generic, everybody asks this question, but I'm always curious as to what the answer is, because we've gotten some very interesting answers. If you could work with anyone, dead or alive, who would have it been, or who would it be?
Oh my God, Dustin, these questions are so hard. God, like everybody, I want to work with like so many people. I mean, right now, the first person coming to mind for me right now in this moment is Catherine Hahn. She's obviously very relevant, but like I've been a fan of hers since Step Brothers. Like,
sure.
I've been like a hardcore fan. I've always thought she was like so special and so funny and so smart, and like I'm just so glad that she's finally getting like a role where she can really show off her range.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know if you've seen any of Agatha, but
I have, yeah.
It's like what she's doing is like so few actors would be like so afraid to do what she's doing, but also like not even be able to pull it off.
Right.
He's just like, it's so good.
You said it. It's range, right? Because if you look at Agatha, she's totally in control, but then completely vulnerable, and like and like what she was able to do in that role. Oof,
and
good choice.
She's really putting it into. It's a full body performance. Like it's a theater performance, which I love because Agatha's so theatrical. Like it's truly like the first thing that came to mind was like Norma Desmond, Sunset Boulevard, like all the movements, like it's so dramatic, and so it's not like insane. Like you look at it and it's very grounded, and I think it's because she has a great sense of humor, and like I always love actors that you can tell just like personally have a good sense of humor.
Yep.
They always are able to like find the joy in every character and like find the humor in everything and be like ground their character in a sense of humor, which I feel like is always more interesting to watch.
Yep.
That's like the more interesting person to me, than kind of playing it straight. I don't know. But,
I love that. All right, now it's here, I'm gonna smack you with the Barbara Walters question. We go deep now. If you could go back and tell your 10-year-old self something, what would you tell her?
Oh, you're gonna be an actor. Start auditioning, idiot.
Get started earlier.
Start early. Start earlier so that we could be better off. We could pay our rent a little bit easier.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. That's a great ad. So some people get real deep with us, and you're just like, no, you're gonna be an actor. Get
No,
started.
this
Like
this
that's.
is look at me. I cradle her head in my hands. I'm like, look at me. Finally.
I love it. I love it. And the final one, and I think I have a pretty good idea of the answer. But are you happy so far with your career?
I don't really have a choice to be anything but happy with it. I mean, like, yes, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. It is what it is. I guess. Like,
You're having fun, right? Like
I'm
so.
having fun. I've gotten to do things I never thought I would have been able to do. Like, I thought I would just be like having my little comedy show and then going to work at my little day job every day. And I still do have the day job, but I'm able to do things that like I
Yeah.
never even would have dreamed of. So it's very cool.
Oh, I absolutely love that, and I have a feeling the day job will be disappearing soon. I'm just putting it out there, but in a good way, not a bad. Like, who's this? If she's fired, like not that way. No, yeah. Listen, this has been an absolute joy. This has been you're an absolute gem to talk to. I've had so much fun, and open invite. Obviously, anytime you want to come back on this one, even if you don't have anything to promote, just come back and shoot the shit. You're a great conversationalist. It's been fun, and the mental health one. I'd love to have you back on the mental health one too, and just kind of dive in and
Yes.
kind of go for that one too. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh my god, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, it is the day and age of social media. So, where can everybody find you? Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me. You can Google my name. I'm out there. Yeah, Instagram is like the place that I'm on the most
All
for
right.
sure. So Corinstagramster is what I'm on. Just try and copy paste my name. Don't try to spell it.
It's an interesting name. I'll say that.
It's difficult. There's so many I's and like there's lots of double letters and everybody's like, where's it go? Just like just copy paste, save yourself some time. Just Google me and my Instagram will probably come up anyway.
There you go. There you go. I love it. Well, we'll make sure we're following you everywhere, so we'll make sure we get everybody going where they need to go. Again, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the night and the rest of the week, and just best of luck. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're
Shut
very
up.
welcome. All right, take care, and we'll be in touch soon, okay?
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, now it is time for our top 5 segment, man. And this week, with us being in the midst of the holiday season, we're going to be talking about our top 5 current favorite holiday movies. Man, oh man, it's that time of year, man. It's that time of
It
year.
is indeed.
Just it feels so good. It feels so good. Christmas tree's already up, lights are already out. The Christmas village is along the bar area. We're
Yes.
super excited about this. It's just a happier time of year, man.
It is. I'm already drinking out of my Christmas cups. It's Christmas music 24/7 is already on the radio everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to not be in the Christmas mode. Plus, we likely won't have shows around that time, so we wanted to make sure we got these in there so you guys know what will we be watching. What are our go-tos when we're not on the air with you guys? So here they are.
Here they are, man. Here they are. Well, my number 5 goes to Mickey's Once Upon a Time of Christmas. Now, if you guys don't know about this film, it's an animated film, of course, by Disney, of course, centered around Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and the Goof. And this freaking movie tells 3 stories, 3 Christmas stories that are very beloved. And each one of them is like its own individual compact little short film. And
Yeah.
what it does is show you many different like approaches and aspects of the holiday season that you yourself might get into or like mentally start thinking about different things. So for example, the Goofy one, which is one of my favorites, the Mickey Mouse one's my favorite. But the Goofy one is about just a dad trying to take care of his son who doesn't know if Santa's real or not. So he keeps trying to give him that holiday spirit and pick him up. And then, of course, by the end, it happens. He gets to see Santa, and it's amazing. And then the Donald Duck one is awesome because it's when the kids freaking wish that Christmas was every day. And then they realize making Christmas every day takes away the joy, this making it special, the beautiful family time that you cherish so deeply. Because if something great happens to you every day, like it doesn't become as special. So I mean, they kind of really dive into that one. And then the Mickey Mouse one, which is my favorite, Mickey and Minnie, the true love story that we all aspire to be, just trying to afford a nice Christmas gift for each other. I mean, that's really the biggest thing, man. It to the point where Mickey and Minnie both sell something they love so they can get that person something they need, and then they in turn sell both the things that they love to get the other person what they need, and then they don't have the actual item anymore. But it's more about just being together on Christmas or the holidays, whatever holidays you celebrate, and just spending time with each other, because that's really all that matters. The gift
Oh
giving
yeah.
is nice and the receiving is nice, but it's really just about the family time and cherishing this time of year, because it's very important. Because I mean, how many Christmases do we have left? You never know when your life is going to end. Not to get very deep in this podcast, but but yeah, I love this film. I love the short stories. Disney always creating some beautiful classics that you can cry, laugh, and relate to. So yeah, Mickey's Once Upon a Time of Christmas.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, if you guys don't know, you don't make a whole lot of money working on the steamboat. So Mickey had to get it together. He had to figure it out. I love that though, and all of mine fall into that same thing. Mine are all family oriented. They're family related. They're about the meaning of family during the holidays, and that's why I think I gravitate and love all these so much. My number 5 is A Bramble House Christmas. This one is about a man who now is a successful storybook artist and author who lost his dad early, didn't have a good relationship with his dad, and missed out on the family dynamic of Christmas, and there was a lot of bitterness and anger there. But in reality, he didn't know the story about why the dad walked away and why it was the way that it was. And over the course of this movie, he learns that through a nurse that worked with his dad up until his death. It's just a beautiful Christmas story about a young mother and her son who are struggling, and is gifted this money by the guy who's dying, and the author gets pissed because he's like, that's my inheritance and my dad should have given it to me. And you get all that animosity because he didn't have a good relationship with the dad. But then over the course of it, you learn the importance of family and what the dad sacrificed for his kids. It wasn't a bad thing, it was a good thing. It's kind of a thing. And so yeah, anytime that you can get a movie that's centered around Christmas and the meaning of Christmas and spending it together, and then like you said, because this story really emphasized, we don't know when our last Christmas is. We don't. So to hold an animosity or to hold a grudge on something that may or may not even be true, and prevent yourself from having that quality time with your family, that's terrible. And so this movie really emphasizes the fact that it's time to move on and find forgiveness and happiness and spend the holidays together. And they do it in a brilliant little way with this dynamic between these two families. And it turns out that Bramble House is so important because the dad spent his young Christmases at the Bramble House. And so now they're all back at the Bramble House, full circle. So, yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, A Bramble House Christmas, my number 5.
Great pick, man. Great pick. Well, my number 4 goes to 8 Crazy Nights. This is an animated pick by Adam Sandler. And man, oh man, it's freaking hilarious. If you guys haven't seen this one, it's awesome. It centers around Hanukkah. So it's always nice to, like we talk about, entertainment is the best form of education. So to be able to learn more about the Jewish culture and what they celebrate on Hanukkah, I think that's very cool. But to give you a little IMDb description about this film, Davy Stone, our main protagonist, who is played by Adam Sandler, an alcoholic with a criminal record, is sentenced to community service under supervision of an elderly referee who is kind of like a mentor character named Whitey. And Davy is faced then with trying to reform and abandon his bad habits. But there you do get a lot of backstory in that, to where he was orphaned as an 11-year-old child, and had to give up basketball, had to grow up real quick because his parents died in a car accident. So basically, from 11 years old to where he's at now, where the film is set, he is still mourning. He's still trying to get over what had happened to him when he was a kid. So what this film does is show you that no matter if it's family or not, people will help you get over bad experiences. And especially around the holidays, everybody feels extra nice. So that's always nice. But yeah, it's a great film. It's a good comedy. It's a good animated adult comedy, I would say, because there is some risque stuff in there, but it's still one of my favorites. So yeah, number 4 for me, 8 Crazy Nights.
Nice. Can't go wrong with Adam Sandler in the holidays. It's always a good one. My number 4 is a new one. It's a relatively new one on my list because this is our current. This one was from last year, and it's a brilliant film, regardless of holiday or not. But it takes place over the Christmas break at a university. I'm, of course, talking about The Holdovers. This one, if you guys don't know, it's about a group of kids who really don't have real great relationships with their families, and they're kind of left at the boarding school over the Christmas break. And there's a professor who's also not really socially liked amongst the whole group of people or whatever. And he's kind of tasked with watching them over this break or whatever. It stars, obviously, a huge cast. Paul Giamatti, Dominic Sessa, Davine Joy Randolph, Carrie Preston. All Oscar-worthy performances in this bad boy. Davine actually won. It's a brilliant film. But what I really like about this one is one where it shows that family isn't always necessarily blood. This group of odd little individuals come together and spend this holiday, and they help each other get through things, and they become a family throughout the film. And it's very touching. It's very emotional. And it's just one of those feel-good movies where it doesn't matter where you're at in life, what you're going through, how you're viewed by other people. Somebody's going to find you. Somebody's going to see you. You're going to fit into that clique, and you're going to be okay. And I think that's the main thing from this movie that I really took away from it, is like, everybody's got somebody. You just got to find them. And this group of people that didn't think that existed, it existed for them. And they all end up becoming better individuals for it by the end of the movie. Even though they all kind of go their separate ways, which I don't know. This one was really sentimental to me. I just really gravitated it to for some reason. But if you haven't checked it out, which, what? You've been living under a rock the past year and a half. Number 4, The Holdovers. Check it out, guys.
Fantastic pick, man. Fantastic. Yeah, I almost put that on mine as well. I was really close. Number 3 for me goes to The Holiday. Man, oh man. I just recently watched this a couple years ago for the first time.
Oh, really?
My wife, Emily, introduced it to me, yes. And beautiful film, man. I absolutely love it. Cameron Diaz, Kate Winslet, Jude Law, Jack Black, and so many other freaking people in this thing. Nancy Meyers did an amazing job directing this thing. She also wrote it. But I love, because it's not your typical basic Christmas movie. It just centers around Christmas. That's when the time period is. And it's basically like a big house swap. You need to leave your comfort zone to go find something new. And I think that's what happens here. And then, of course, happens in the best time of the year. So it's just a very loving, very endearing story that, I feel like gets talked about, but doesn't get talked about enough because, like I said, it's such a great, phenomenal film. And it just shows you that Jack Black is a great freaking dramatic actor, even though this is kind of like a rom-com type of thing, but he is such a good actor. Now, I was actually having this conversation with somebody the other day. I wish that he would take different roles right now because he is very in a box, but I also think he takes those roles because he can just be himself while doing what he loves. And I can't be mad at him for that. Like, I watched the new Minecraft trailer and I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's very Jack Black. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I cannot knock him for that. But If you guys have not checked out The Holiday, please be sure to do so. I'm sure it's on a streaming service because it is that time of year. And it's a great film. It's a great film. So my number 3, The Holiday.
Oh my God, such a great choice. Well, I can't believe you just recently came to that, but I'm not surprised that Emily introduced you to it. It's one of her longtime faves. And I'm glad you liked it because it really is a good one. My number 3, I think it's universal. If there's a single person on the face of the planet that doesn't have this on their list at some point, I don't know what's wrong with you. My number 3, Elf. Duh. Jon Favreau, Will Ferrell, like about a grown-ass human elf that lives with Santa, comes back home to reunite with his dad, give him the true meaning of Christmas, make everything great. I don't know how anybody could watch this film and not fall in love with it from start to finish. This is everything about what family is supposed to be about, mending relationships, fixing... This is another, again, a misunderstanding of where the dynamic in the relationship between the family was and a mending of it. And, I mean, stars 2 legends that recently passed, that we lost just recently, James Gunn and Ed Asner, who, like, I mean, come on, you guys. James Gunn and Ed Asner in the same film. Ed Asner as fucking Santa Claus? What? Come on! Are you kidding me? And then, you know, this may be probably, in my opinion, and Will's done a lot of great stuff. Very serious roles, comedic roles, obviously, but this might be my favorite role ever of Will Ferrell. He just, the epitome of a grown-ass man as a childlike elf, pulling everybody together for the true meaning of Christmas. It just, how he plays off against James Gunn, who's like the most gangster-ass gangster of all guys. It just works. That was brilliant by Favreau to even make that happen. This is a classic, guys. If you get through the holiday season and you haven't watched Elf, I don't even know what to say. Don't talk to me. I can't even follow you. I can't even be your friend. Like, what is going on? I'm kidding, of course. I'll just make you watch it. But yeah, guys, jump on this one. My number 3, Elf.
Yeah, great pick, man. Great pick. My number 2 goes to How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the live action version, of course, with Jim Carrey. It had to be on one of our lists, man.
Oh, it had to be.
On. I love this thing, but I mean, Emily loves it even more. It might be her favorite holiday movie of all time as well. But I just, it's a nice family, fun movie that literally everyone can watch, you know, and Jim Carrey's performance is like untouchable. You know, I mean, what he was able to do as the Grinch was so funny, so much improvisation, and it's one of those staples that we have to watch it every single year.
Yeah.
That and my number 1, of course. But I mean, yeah, I love this film so freaking much, and of course, what's her face from Pretty Reckless. So
yeah, Taylor Momsen,
man.
Taylor Momsen,
my number 2, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
I think anytime anybody figures out that little Cindy Lou Who is Taylor Momsen from Gossip Girl and the Pretty Reckless, who's hardcore rocker now, they're like, no, and then you're like, yeah, that's little Cindy Lou Who. Quite the change.
Right.
I love this movie as well, though, and what I really like about this movie is how Ron Howard and Jim Carrey so brilliantly were able to keep everything in tone from the original beloved cartoon and yet make it completely uniquely their own, right? Like the Grinch is the Grinch. He's straight up Boris Karloff Grinch from the cartoon, and yet Jim Carrey makes it so uniquely his own. And how they were able to pull that off is brilliant because it was a risk. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you take a beloved character like that and a beloved, you know, holiday and try to do it, it either hits or misses. And, you know, they nailed it. Yeah, it's just brilliant film. Brilliant film. My number 2, this is my official kickoff into the holidays every single year. It's it. It's a family tradition for me. I have watched it every single year for 12 years. It debuted 12 years ago, and on Thanksgiving Day, or night, whatever you want to say, I watch this film. I sit down, glass of wine, kick back. I watch this film and welcome in the holidays. And the reason I say that is because back in my day, the trees weren't already up. The stores didn't have all their shit out. They weren't playing music 24/7. And the reason being is because the Thanksgiving Day parade is when Santa came. At the end of the parade is when Santa officially arrives and Christmas starts. Now it happens like months before this. Fucking Halloween when Christmas starts at this point. But the whole premise behind this, Love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade, that's my movie, Love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade, is showing what it means, the importance of keeping Christmas alive, keeping the tradition of Christmas alive, the perfect Santa Claus for the kids to see, the arrival of Santa Claus just on time, and what it means for the season and what it means going forward for the season, and the endearing part about bringing families together, no matter how the year has been, this moment, that day, those floats, it's the meaning behind it. And of course it's a cute little lovey, quirky rom-com with Antonio Cupo and Autumn Reeser, but it's so beyond the little quirky rom-com love story. It's about the meaning of Christmas and what it means to bring families together and the tradition of Christmas, which I love. I mean, and that's why I do it every year. It's like the kickoff. It's like, yes, now Santa has arrived. And now, because I watch the actual Thanksgiving Day Parade during the day, then I watch this wonderful movie at night. It just seems like a no-brainer. It's a win-win. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's everywhere. It, like I said, has been out for 12 years now. You can find it somewhere. Love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade. Do yourself a favor. Check it out. Check it out. That's all I'm saying.
That's it. Well, my number one should come at no surprise.
Yeah, no surprise.
I know we talk about all the time, we'd like to keep things fresh. We like to keep, adding things to our list that we might not have talked about before. But I mean, nothing can replace this, so I just can't. Now I'm talking about Home Alone 1 and 2. Those are my two favorite holiday films of all time. The second one is still my favorite, more than the first one. But I have to put both of them on here because of freaking Kevin McAllister.
No, you have to.
Because of my boy. It's one of those films that I will watch every single year as well. That is always on the list. So I'm not going to talk about it too much because I've talked about it so freaking much on this show, and it's fine. But yeah, number one for me, Home Alone 1 and 2.
There you go. And same thing for my number one. This has been my go-to number one every time we talk about Christmas. It's the movie for me. It is the epitome of Christmas. Is Santa real? And the belief in Santa Claus. And I think this movie does a really good job of implying that Santa is real, but Santa is us. Yeah. We are Santa. We are what Santa brings. And throughout the movie, obviously, I'm of course talking about A Miracle on 34th Street. And if you guys don't know, what the fuck? A Macy's store Santa is brought to court because they're suing because he says he's the real Santa Claus. And this little girl, played by the one and only, the incomparable, the adorable, tiny at that point, Natalie Wood. Oh my God, she's so precious. That worth it right there is for the movie. But of course, Maureen O'Hara as her mom and John Payne as Fred Galley, the Santa who gives them the home at the end and provides them all the stuff. And then of course, Sir Edmund Ginn as Santa Claus, Saint Nick, Kris Kringle. It's just a beautiful story of the real meaning, again, of Christmas. Santa's real because we make him real. Anybody and everybody is Santa Claus. And that's, now, in the movie, do you walk away going, was Chris really Santa Claus? Well, that's for you to decide. But they hint throughout that Fred is really the Santa Claus of the story that's providing for the mom and daughter, that gives them the happy ending, kind of a thing. But, Chris is Santa. I'm going with Chris is Santa, okay? He's the real deal. Anyway, guys, I'm not going to talk too much about it. I will just say one thing. Don't watch the remake, fucking one from the 90s. Fuck that shit. Has to be the original with Natalie Wood and Maureen O'Hara. And don't watch the colorized version. It's got to be the fucking black and white version. If you're going to go for it classic. Do it the right way, how it was meant to be seen. And yeah, Miracle on 34th Street. Go to Christmas, baby.
That's right. That's right. So let us know what your favorite holiday movie is. Please be sure to comment below down in the YouTube comment section or add us on Twitter, Threads, all the good places. We'll freaking love it.
Yes.
Well, now we're heading over to the box office recap, man, and Red One. Did a little rough. Okay, they did come in at number one. They did, with $32 million. Number two was Venom: The Last Dance with $7.4 million. The Best Christmas Pageant Ever came in at number three with $5.4 million. Heretic came in at number four with $5.2 million. And The Wild Robot came in at number five with 4.3. New movies coming out in select theaters near you, but mass-wide for the first two. Wicked, of course, Gladiator II, Armor, and then Flow and Say a Little Prayer. And then, of course, movies you can go see in select theaters near you. Conclave, A Real Pain, Anora, We Live in Time, and then, of course, Terrifier 3, which is perfect time right now when you're in the holiday spirit. Go watch Terrifier 3. I think that just makes sense.
I gotta try to find a Nora somewhere around me, man. This thing is nonstop Oscar chatter. Like it is getting a lot, and the female that stars in it, I wish I had her name off the top of my head. She is like at the top of everybody's list for winning Best Actress. I mean, I gotta jump on this movie. It's a really cute premise. It's about like I guess like an OnlyFans model that enters into a relationship with this rich guy, and everybody thinks it's just a fake relationship, that she's using him or whatever. But then they actually fall in love, and they're trying to like tell convince everyone. I don't know. It just sounds like a cute premise, but yeah, it's getting a lot of Oscar buzz.
Yeah, man. Mickey Madison.
There you go.
Her name.
Yeah.
So be sure to check her out. And then, of course, the IMDbPro's top trending segment. Gladiator 2 is the top trending movie. The top trending TV show is still The Penguin. And then the top trending star is Kristen Melody on a certain project,
from The Penguin.
whatever.
Yeah, The Penguin.
Probably
She's the chick. She's the
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, but we are very freaking excited about this Thanksgiving break. We got to thank our guest, Corinne, one more time for coming on the show. Oh, so good, man. So freaking good. Be sure to follow her on Instagram because that's where she's most active.
Yes.
And then, of course, be sure to follow us on social media. The company is at Crazy Ant Media. The podcast is at ITCAFpodcast. Our mental health podcast is at Everything OKP. And then, of course, us personally on social media. Myself at J Logan Austin and
at Crazy Ant CEO.
That's right, man. That's right. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitcher, and so much more. And then, of course, be sure to visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. Like I said, 15% off. Be sure to check that out. And then, man, oh man, what a great freaking episode, I will say. It's always a lot of fun talking about the stuff we love, and especially before a nice holiday break.
Oh yeah, dude. I just there's so much good stuff coming, and like I like when we got a nice little mix peppered of the business stuff and then just the full on entertainment stuff, right? Like I said at the top of the show, I'm really hoping for Glicked. I hope it does what they want it to do, and let's keep that box office roaring, guys. We need that. But then on the flip side of that, I'm so excited about the anticipation of Harvey coming back for Suits and Sly coming back for another season of Tulsa King. There's so much good stuff to stay home for, too. So, it's that nice little mix about what do I do? I tell you what you do, both. Go see movies and watch shit on TV. That's how you do it. Yeah, dude, I love talking what we talk about, dude. This is the industry that we're in. We love it. We're getting ready to shoot our own film in like 27 days from the time we're recording this. I mean, come on, man. Life is good.
It really is, man. It really freaking is. We're super excited. We're thankful for you, like we said one more time. And then, of course, we are thankful for the one, the only,
Oprah